Hello, students and teachers. You caught me practicing. I've been working on the introduction from Louis Armstrong's famous tune called West End Blues. I wish I could say that I invented that solo, but really, it is the genius of Louis Armstrong. Louis Armstrong was a jazz trumpeter and singer who was born in 1901 and died in 1971. Many consider him to be the first great jazz improviser. Improvisation means to invent new melodies that you have not practiced before. I brought a book for us to read together. It is called Satchmo Blues and is written by Alan Schroeder and is illustrated by Floyd Cooper. Let's get into it. Okay, so here we are. This is Satchmo Blues. And this is a artist picture of a drummer. And then we also have the bass player and the piano player and or singer. And down there by the door, we have a Louis Armstrong who is looking in and hiding. Let's go to the next one. It was a hot night in New Orleans, and Economy Hall was jumping. Louis Armstrong stood outside and listened to the band. The pianist was playing Panama Rag, and whenever he could, Louis would get down on his knees and peek under the big swinging doors. Economy Hall was a great place. The tables were clean, the peanuts were fresh, and the Eagle Band played some of the best jazz in New Orleans. In the corner, Mama Haynes had put out her pipe and was getting ready to sing Ham Tree Barbecue. Louis could hardly wait. Just then the bartender looked up. He stopped wiping the mugs and grinned. "Get out of here, Louis," he called. He pronounced it the way the French way, Louis, the way people in New Orleans always did. "You go on home. You don't be hanging around no gin mill." But Louis didn't want to leave. The music was too good, and besides, Bunk Johnson was in the band. Every Friday night, Bunk would show up in a spiffy red shirt and blow his cornet till the place trembled, or till the roof trembled. Every now and then, Bunk would catch sight of Louis's head underneath the swinging doors, and right away he let out a big, terrific grin, like he died and gone to heaven. Moments like those, Louis could feel his toes tingle. Finally, around 10 o'clock, Louis's mama had to come and take him home. "I don't know what I'm going to do with you, child," she scolded. "I worried myself sick wondering where you were." As they mounted the porch steps, Louis was hoping there'd be some red beans and rice in Mama's kettle, but when he lifted the lid and peered in, it was empty. So was the kitchen cupboard. "Isn't there anything to eat?" he asked. Mama shook her head. "I'm sorry, baby." She reached into her pocket and took out 2 oranges, one for you and one for your sister. She saw the sad look on Louis's face. "Don't worry," she told him. "We'll have more tomorrow, I promise." Louis said nothing. He took the orange and went to bed. Here's a picture of his mother. And Louis, his mother has those 2 oranges, and Louis is looking like he's not excited about that. And here are some pictures of some musicians, an artist picture. So we have a man playing a banjo, we have a man playing a violin and a drum. Louis and his family lived on Perdido Street, back of town. It was a tough neighborhood, full of broken bottles, mangy dogs, and kicked-in fences. But Louis didn't mind. At night, when the lanterns were lit and Willie Reed brought out his fiddle, it was just like being at Economy Hall, with everyone clapping and dancing on boards. "Mr. Jefferson Lord, play that barbershop chord." Back of town, everyone had a musical instrument of some kind, a clarinet or a banjo, or maybe just an old pot someone had turned into a drum. But Louis didn't want a clarinet or a banjo. He wanted to blow a horn, just like Bunk Johnson. A real cornet, brass, with valves so quiet they whispered. But they took money, and Mama didn't have any. Not enough for a cornet anyway. You're going to have to wait, she told Louis. Now come on, help me hang up this washing. Every Saturday, Louis and his sister Beatrice had to help Mama with the laundry. It was Louis's job to keep the iron hot. The small kitchen smelled of lye and starch, and the hands on the clock moved as slow as molasses. Outside, Louis could hear laughter and shouting and a pack of happy dogs barking. Aren't we done yet? He kept asking. In a bit, Mama would answer. Come on now, let's sing a song. That'll make the time go quick. And tapping the stove with an old wooden spoon, she started singing Little Black Baby. Beatrice giggled, and Louis crouched down, pretended he was blowing his horn right on the hot coals. Outside, the dogs went crazy with their barking. Let's do another one, Beatrice cried, and sure enough they did. They kept it up all afternoon, washing and ironing to the beat of the music. Finally, just as the sun was setting, Mama folded the last shirt, ran a handkerchief across her brow, and smiled. We're done, she said, nodding. That was all Louis needed to hear. Instantly, he took off lickety-split for the door. Come back here, Mama called. But Louis was already gone, tearing down the dusty alley, hightailing it over the fence, and skidding to a stop in front of Sister Leola's. By that time, the food table was already full, and the men were laying down wooden planks for dancing. So that's a picture of Louis and his sister, Beatrice, making music with the wooden spoons and singing. Saturday night was rag night, and Sister Leola's was the only place to be. Before the dancing began, Leola made sure everyone had brought something for the food table. Why, you lazy thing, she would scold when someone showed up empty-handed. Get on home and bring back something, or honey, I'm going to whoop your head. This here's rag night, not a Red Cross handout. Louis couldn't take his eyes off the food table. Mirandy's biscuits were piping hot, and the heavy pitchers of lemonade were ice cold. The band always started off with a great number, like Dixie Flyer, and grabbing a handful of cornbread, Louis stood and watched the dancing. One night, a paper lantern caught fire, sending a shower of sparks over the crowd. Everyone cheered, and instantly the cornet man started playing Hot Time in the Old Town Tonight. Gazelle, the voodoo lady, let out a huge belly laugh. Well, don't you just stand there, she cried, pushing Louis forward. Scorch those boards. Louis tried to move his feet in time to the music, but he was a lousy scorcher. And besides, he didn't want to dance. He wanted to play the cornet. He wanted to be like Bunk Johnson and aim his horn straight up into the night sky and set the stars spinning. That takes lungs, Leola told him. Why don't you dance instead? Here, give me your shoes. Louis did, and laughing, Leola glued a penny onto the heel of each one. Now you got taps, she said. Sure enough, every time Louis took a step, a tap jumped out. Tap, tap, tap. It was fun for a while, but it wasn't as much fun as a cornet. One day, right off Bourbon Street, Louis saw a horn sitting in a pawn shop window. It was a humdinger, all bright and sassy, just begging to be bought. The cardboard sign said $5. Louis turned away. He could never come up with that much money. It's not fair, he thought. Everyone else had a musical instrument. Even Santiago, the pie man, had a little horn hanging from his wooden cart. People came flocking when they heard his familiar toot, 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 toot. The next time Santiago came back of town, Louis ran up and tugged up on his sleeve. Can I blow that horn, mister? He said eagerly. The pie man handed it to him with a grin. Louis whipped the horn up to his lips and blew. Nothing happened. Just a flat, spinning sound. Everybody laughed, especially Santiago. Louis tried again. This time, the noise was even worse. Santiago reached down and took the horn away. I thought you said you could blow it, Louis. Louis frowned. I thought I could. And that made everyone laugh even harder. But Louis didn't give up. He wanted to turn that awful into something wonderful, something so hot and jazzy that everyone would come a running. And I'm going to do it too, he said to himself. And there's a picture of little Louis trying to play Santiago's trumpet, cornet. And I did want to tell you, kind of shorten it a little bit, Louis Armstrong spent from that moment until he finally did get a cornet, spent his time practicing. So here's a picture of Louis Armstrong trying to mimic or imitate the sound of the trumpet. Isn't that good? Here's another one. This is Louis Armstrong. Wasn't so bad to play that he's marching with the marching bands. And this is the artist's rendition of him in church, playing the trumpet and buzzing his lips, pretending that he has a trumpet. Finally, I want to let you know, Louis Armstrong had to save his money so that he can buy the cornet that was in the pawn shop. And the happy story is, his mother that you see behind him, she helped him to buy the cornet. And guess what? He bought the cornet and he was so happy that he bought the cornet. And as you see, here's the author's note about Louis Armstrong. And I'll read this to you. Louis Armstrong went on to become the most famous trumpeter in the history of popular music. Leaving New Orleans at the age of 21, he traveled north of Chicago, where he began his long and successful recording career. The microphone and the public loved Louis. Over the years, his string of hits included Ain't Misbehaving, Tiger Rag, West End Blues, and Hello Dolly. The film industry was quick to spot Louis' remarkable talent. He appeared in numerous musicals, and by the 1950s, he had become an international celebrity known around the world as Satchmo or Ambassador Satch. Louis was also a talented composer, writing, among other pieces, Cold Cart Blues, Cornet Chop Suey, and Strutting with Some Barbecue. His autobiography, Satchmo, My Life in New Orleans, appeared in 1954. Louis Armstrong, the trumpet king of swing, died in New York City on July 6, 1971. His gravelly voice and dynamic trumpet playing will never be forgotten. And if you would like to read this book, make sure you can approach me and I'll tell you where you can find it. So we didn't get all the way through it, but we got through it. You kids have a good day. See you later.